So there was this guy who thought he was dead. He swore he was dead. Nothing his wife would say to him could convince him that he was alive. So she finally talked him into going to see a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist says to him, "Do dead people bleed?" He's like, "No, dead people don't bleed." So the psychiatrist takes a pin and pokes his finger and the man starts to bleed. The man looks at his bleeding finger and says, "Wow, dead people do bleed." So some people have preconceived notions, presuppositions, and they will not open their mind to facts. Today I'm going to ask you whether you agree with me or disagree with me. Please listen to the facts that I'm going to give you. I've researched this subject for years, and I'm going to give you the facts as I know them and believe them. Please feel free to fact check me and put in the comments if anything I said was incorrect. But please listen to the entire video, because even if you disagree with me, it's pretty wise to know your opponent's arguments. One of the greatest books on war is called The Art of War. And one of the foundational principles in that book is to know your enemy, to know what they're thinking, to know what their next move is. And St. Thomas Aquinas said, when you debate someone, you should always attack their strongest argument. So I believe I'm going to give you a very strong argument that there is systematic racism in America, but it's overlooked because the systematic racists have us looking somewhere else. So Margaret Sanger said this: "Colored people are human weeds and they need to be exterminated." Who is Margaret Sanger, if you don't know? She is the founder of Planned Parenthood. Before she founded Planned Parenthood, she had another project called the Negro Project. In 1939, she started the Negro Project, and she said it was to exterminate the colored race. Margaret Sanger was very popular at KKK rallies, go figure. She said she modeled the Negro Project and Planned Parenthood after the Nazis' eugenics program, the sterilization of the Jews. She thought that was a good idea and we should sterilize the colored people in our country and the mentally ill in our country. And misfits, inbreds as she called them, that was her plan when she started the Negro Project and then Planned Parenthood. But by the time she started Planned Parenthood, she got a little wiser. And she told the people that would be running Planned Parenthood for her, we need to find a few articulate colored ministers because they're very respected in the colored community. They need to have engaging personality so that they can convince colored mothers that they would be doing something lovingly for their family by killing their babies or sterilizing themselves. So, was Planned Parenthood successful? I submit to you that they were in their goal. And how did they succeed, other than getting a few articulate ministers? And I'll name a few right now, I'll call them out. But Margaret Sanger also said we need to put our Planned Parenthood clinics in colored neighborhoods and target the colored people. And today, Planned Parenthood, 90% of their clinics are in black neighborhoods. In fact, these are the kind of billboards you'll see in black neighborhoods. Very offensive. I don't know if you could see that. Take a look at that billboard. That's in a black neighborhood. That's in a black neighborhood in Dallas. In case you couldn't see it, it's three nice looking black women on a billboard smiling. They're all happy. And it says, "Black women take care of their families by taking care of themselves. Abortion is self-care." Abortion is self-care. This is today, 2020, where we have 4D ultrasounds that we know, unless you're a complete science denier, that abortion is murdering a human being. They call it self-care. Right now, every year in New York City, more black babies are aborted than born. You heard me right. In fact, the black race in America is the only minority race that their population is decreasing, not increasing. Blacks make up 13% of the population in the US. They make up 35% of the abortions because they are targeted. So, who are these people targeting the black race? Why is the Democrat Party so supportive of abortion and Planned Parenthood when they're supposed to be the friend to the black race according to the media? Why does the media portray Republicans as the enemy of the black race and Democrats as the friend of the black race? I'm going to answer those two questions really quickly. Number one, slavery was systematic racism, obviously. But it was men who wanted to end slavery that started the Republican Party. Abraham Lincoln, our first Republican president. And after the Republicans ended slavery, the Democrats started the Ku Klux Klan. And Democratic politicians put in all these laws in effect to keep blacks down. And then in the 1960s, the Republicans pushed for the Civil Rights Act. 80% of Republicans voted in favor of civil rights. Only 60% of Democrats voted in favor. Same thing with the voting rights. And when you bring this argument up to your Democrat friends, their usual argument is, yeah, all the Democrats back then in the 60s became Republicans. And I always heard that argument, so I researched it. I researched every senator and every congressman who voted against civil rights and voted against the voting rights bill in the 60s, and none of them became Republicans. In fact, one of the filibusters of these laws, Robert Byrd, who is well known that he was a Grand Kleagle in the KKK, that's like a recruiter. He bragged he recruited 150 of his racist friends. Not only did he remain a Democrat, but the Democrats themselves voted him as majority leader all the way in the 80s and 90s. In fact, he was a sitting Democrat, third-ranking Democrat in the Senate when he died in 2010, when Joe Biden gave the eulogy at his funeral, praising him. What a wonderful guy this guy is. And Hillary Clinton said that Robert Byrd, KKK, Grand Kleagle, was her mentor. And when they asked her husband, Bill Clinton, well, doesn't she feel funny knowing this guy was a former Klansman? And Bill Clinton said, well, you know, back then to be a Democrat, you had to be in the Klan. That's just the way it was. And in fact, Bill Clinton, when he was governor of Arkansas, put a Confederate flag star on the Arkansas flag to commemorate the Confederate flag. And Democrat Reuben Askew, another racist Democrat that never left the Democrat Party, all the way in 1978. Now we're talking long after civil rights were fought. 1978, Reuben Askew, governor of Florida, with the consent of a Democrat state house and a Democrat Congress in Florida, raised the Confederate flag over the Florida State House. And all the Democrat governors after him left it up there. It wasn't until Florida got a Republican governor, Jeb Bush, in 2000 and I forget the year. I don't want to quote the year. But Jeb Bush is the one that took the flag down. Same thing happened in South Carolina. The Confederate flag was raised over the South Carolina State House by Democrat Governor Ernest Fritz Hollins and was taken down by Republican Governor Nikki Haley. So why does the media ignore all this? And another thing they ignore, Bill Clinton has on many occasions said his mentor and his idol, so to speak, was Senator William Fulbright. William Fulbright was the most racist senator in the Senate. William Fulbright, look up that man and his connection to Bill Clinton. So this Democrat Party is the same Democrat Party that fought against civil rights, that started the KKK, and in fact, they still have articulate, engaging, well-spoken ministers. Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton always support politicians who support Planned Parenthood. By no coincidence, they both receive millions of dollars from Planned Parenthood to their organizations. So Planned Parenthood funnels money to Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton. Al Sharpton tells the black voters, vote for these Democrats. You see how it works? So it's not any longer just ministers. Now, the KKK would have never dreamed of this, and Margaret Sanger would never dreamed of this. There's powerful politicians that are sold out to Planned Parenthood, that have sold out the black race. I mean, just think about it. In one day, Planned Parenthood kills more blacks, babies, than the KKK has ever killed in their life, in their whole existence. More blacks were killed by Planned Parenthood in one day than the KKK has been able to kill in their whole existence. So, why does the media ignore this? And I'll give you one more example of a politician sold out to Planned Parenthood. In 2001, this nurse assisted a doctor in giving an abortion in a hospital in Illinois, 2001. The nurse noticed when they aborted the baby, it was like 5 pounds and it was still alive. And she said to the doctor, this baby's still alive. Aren't you going to resuscitate it? She said, no. The doctor said, no, it's, the law is, it's marked for abortion. It's an aborted baby. So the doctor tossed it in the trash can. The nurse was horrified, picked up the baby and held the baby for the next 45 minutes while the baby slowly died of suffocation, just died in her arms. She was so upset, she went before the Illinois State House. She told her story. All the senators were horrified. And they voted 99-1 to pass a law called the Baby Infant Born Alive Protection Act of 2001. It might have got passed, but it started in 2001. It might have been 2002 by the time the governor actually signed it. The only state senator that voted against it was Barack Obama. And lo and behold, his biggest supporter financially and to get out the vote was Planned Parenthood. Another sellout to Planned Parenthood. And how horrifying that is, even to Democrats in 2001, the Democrat Party has become so extreme that their platform right now that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris support says they are in favor of laws like in New York State that was signed in 2019 by Democrat governor, and the Democrats that run the Congress in New York, that allows abortion through the 9th month and beyond. So if the baby is born and the mother decides for whatever reason she wants that baby to die, they'll let it die. And like the governor of the Democrat governor, Governor Northam of Virginia said, he's trying to pass the same law. He says, well, we'll make the baby comfortable, and then the mother can make that decision. This is true. And what a coincidence, that governor who wants abortion and infanticide was the governor 2 years ago who had pictures came out of him in blackface and in KKK garb. So imagine that, if that was a Republican pro-life or a Catholic pro-life governor caught in blackface and KK garb, CNN would run that 24/7 and that guy would have to resign. But because he's a Democrat and he's a pro-abortion governor, the media basically ignored it. The story came out for a couple times, and it wasn't like he was a teenager. He was in medical school. This guy was a medical doctor, so when he was in medical school, it was in his yearbook, so that's why he couldn't hide it. Imagine if that was a Republican. And in fact, the lieutenant governor said he should resign until a picture of this Democrat lieutenant governor came out in blackface, and then he shut up. It was like, is this a thing amongst Democrats? I never thought of doing blackface. I never heard of anyone doing blackface, and now all these Democrats coming out that they had blackface. What is up with that? But that's a whole nother video. But my point is, everything is connected to racism, but they have us look and say, oh, look what this guy said in it, and the media takes people's words out of context. Look, oh, he said this, he must be racist. He said this, he must be racist. In fact, I was watching a CNN documentary on racism, and the most racist governor ever, Democrat Governor George Wallace, when they showed a picture of him saying very racist things, beside his name they put an R. An R. So either they deliberately lied, or the young journalists just assumed, because they're always been told Republicans are the racists, and they don't know the history of the racism in the Democrat Party. So why do the Democrats why does the media cover the Democrats and always say the Republicans are racist? Well, since 1980, every Gallup poll amongst journalists asked them, have you ever voted for a Republican? 98% of them have never voted for a Republican. So they're not just Democrats, they're hardcore Democrats that are in the media. So of course they want their team to win, and they act like they're objective, so people think they're just watching objective news. So they may leave things out, they may even add things. I mean, Dana Lash on her website has a list of all the lies the media told in the past 3 years about President Trump that they actually retract. So they'll put it on front page in New York Times, a lie, and then when they get called on it and they say we made a mistake, they'll put it on like the 10th page on the bottom. This is a fact. So what do we do about it? Number one, you get informed. You inform other people. Number two, you have to vote pro-life. I know some of you are lifelong Democrats. Your mother was a Democrat. Your father was a Democrat. Your grandparents were Democrats. It's not about tradition. It's about life and death. If you are a Catholic Christian, if you are a Protestant Christian, if you're just a decent human being, you cannot vote for the murder of unborn children through the 9th month. You cannot vote for the systematic genocide of the black race in America that's been going on for 40 years now, 50 years maybe. And you say, well, there's other things we got to vote for. There's systematic racism in the judicial system. Yes, and again, look who's causing it. In 1994, Joe Biden sponsored a crime bill. It's called the Joe Biden crime bill in 94. He bragged on the Senate floor that this bill, there's 20 to 30 ways you can go to jail for life. And he was right. And 90% of those people that got put away for life, mass incarceration. That bill, the black community, black leaders have said this bill has caused mass incarceration among young black males. That was Joe Biden pushing that bill through, and Democrat Governor Bill Clinton signing it. When the black leaders got Barack Obama in the White House, they thought that he would get rid of that bill, and he didn't. Why? Because he didn't want to make his friend Joe look bad. It's all about politics. You know, Joe signed the bill and pushed it through, so I'm not going to rescind it and ruin his chance of being president one day. So Barack Obama refused. Van Jones, an African-American Democrat strategist, and now, of course, he's a guy on CNN, a regular on CNN, he said Barack Obama refused to get rid of this crime bill. He said he talked to Donald Trump, and Donald Trump signed a bill to get rid of it called the Justice Reform Bill. And because of one stroke of a pen by Donald Trump, 90,000 black men were released from jail. And Van Jones, an African-American Democrat, said Donald Trump did more for the black community than any president has done in the last 50 years. That's coming from a black Democrat who hates Donald Trump, but he was truthful. He's an honest liberal. So the shell game is to look over here at these racist Republicans when the Democrats are systematically imprisoning black men, systematically killing black babies. Because the same Democrat Party that started the Ku Klux Klan is the same Democrat Party that supports Planned Parenthood. And how ironic, Margaret Sanger, a registered Democrat, started Planned Parenthood and was a featured speaker at many KKK rallies. So this is the systematic racism that we're up against. But remember, the devil's not going to come with horns and a scary face. The devil's going to come as an angel of light. So be prepared, be informed, and vote for life. Vote pro-life and stay Catholic.